Good morning, afternoon, everyone. I want to talk to you about something fundamental, the way we see the world. We often go through life unaware of the lens through which we view everything around us. But the truth is, we have the power to choose how we perceive the world. It all comes down to two ways: through a lens of scarcity or a lens of abundance. The way we choose to perceive the world shapes our entire experience. Our perspective is not just a passive reflection of reality, it is a powerful filter that determines how we interpret events, people, and circumstances. One of the most significant aspects of how we see the world is the lens we choose to look through, whether it's one of scarcity or abundance. A scarcity mindset, at its core, is about focusing on what is lacking. When we approach life from this perspective, we tend to believe that resources, whether material, emotional, or relational, are limited. We often see the world as a competition where there is only so much to go around. There is a pervasive fear that if someone else succeeds, it means there is less success available for us. This way of thinking often leads to a sense of constant stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. We find ourselves constantly chasing after things we believe we don't have enough of: money, recognition, love, opportunities, believing that if we don't act quickly, they will slip away from us. This perception of scarcity can manifest in various areas of our lives. For example, in our careers, we may see our colleagues not as collaborators, but as competitors. Instead of celebrating their successes, we might feel threatened or resentful. In relationships, we may feel insecure, always wondering if our connections with others are strong enough or whether we are loved enough. We might even develop a sense of never having enough time, energy, or resources to meet all our goals. This limited view can often result in feelings of frustration, disappointment, and burnout. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where our focus on what is missing leads us to overlook what we already have and prevents us from seeing new possibilities. But what if we chose to view the world through a different lens? What if instead of focusing on what is lacking, we focused on what is abundant? The shift to an abundance mindset requires us to believe that there is enough for everyone. It's about recognizing that success is not a finite resource and that we all have the potential to thrive. When we adopt this perspective, we begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. We become open to collaboration rather than competition. We recognize that when someone else succeeds, it doesn't take away from our own potential. Instead, it can inspire us and show us what is possible. This shift in perspective doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or the hard work required to achieve our goals. It simply means that we approach the world with a mindset that expects growth, opportunity, and possibility. Instead of dwelling on limitations, we focus on solutions and ways to expand our horizons. An abundance mindset encourages gratitude and optimism, enabling us to see how much we already have and how much more we can create. By choosing to view the world through this lens, we open ourselves to new ideas, deeper connections, and greater success. The way we see the world can truly change the world we experience. We have the power to decide how we see the world. This might sound like an obvious statement, but it's a profound realization that many of us overlook. Our perception of reality is not a given, nor is it something fixed or predetermined. It is something we actively create, shaped by the choices we make every single day. How we choose to interpret the events around us, how we frame our experiences, and how we react to the people in our lives is entirely within our control. We are not passive bystanders to our circumstances. We are the architects of our own worldview. When we begin to understand that our perception is a choice, it empowers us to take responsibility for it. It is easy to fall into the trap of blaming external factors for how we feel or how we view the world. We may point to our environment, our past, or our current challenges as reasons for our negative outlook. However, the truth is that we can change the way we look at any situation by choosing to do so. This is where personal responsibility comes into play. Taking responsibility for our perception means that we no longer give power to outside forces to dictate our mental state. Instead, we acknowledge that it is up to us to decide how we respond to whatever comes our way. This shift in responsibility requires intentionality. It's not enough to simply acknowledge that we have control over our perception. We must actively choose to exercise that control. This can be incredibly challenging, especially when life presents us with hardships, setbacks, or disappointments. But this is precisely when our ability to choose how we perceive the situation is most powerful. In difficult moments, we can choose to focus on what we can learn, how we can grow, or what possibilities may arise from the challenge. By reframing our perspective in this way, we shift from being victims of circumstance to active participants in shaping our own experience. Taking responsibility for our perception also means letting go of the notion that we are victims of our environment or the people around us. While we cannot always control what happens to us, we have complete control over how we perceive and respond to those events. This freedom is liberating because it puts the power back in our hands. We stop waiting for someone or something to change in order for us to feel better, and we begin to realize that our happiness and peace of mind are determined by the way we choose to see the world. Ultimately, the power to choose how we see the world is a gift. It is an opportunity to reframe challenges, cultivate gratitude, and embrace new possibilities. When we take responsibility for our perception, we reclaim control over our lives and begin to experience the world in a way that is both empowering and transformative. This choice is always available to us, and it can change everything. The way we see the world profoundly impacts how we relate to others. Our perspective shapes not only our internal world, but also the way we engage with the people around us. If we approach life with a mindset of scarcity, this often seeps into our relationships, creating barriers that hinder authentic connection and collaboration. Conversely, when we embrace an abundance mindset, it fosters empathy, trust, and the willingness to build deeper, more meaningful relationships. When we view the world through a lens of scarcity, we are often focused on what we don't have and what we fear losing. In relationships, this can lead to insecurity, jealousy, and competition. We may see others' successes as threats rather than opportunities for inspiration. There can be a constant sense of comparison where we measure our worth based on how we stack up against those around us. This scarcity-driven mentality can create unnecessary tension and conflict in relationships, whether in friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships. We might even find ourselves guarded, hesitant to share our true selves with others because we fear judgment or rejection. Furthermore, when we see relationships through a scarcity lens, we may view them as transactional, believing that for every act of kindness or support, we should receive something in return. This creates an imbalance in our interactions and undermines the authenticity of our connections. Instead of giving freely, we may hold back, waiting for others to prove their worth or reciprocate. This dynamic can lead to resentment and frustration as we begin to expect more from others than we are willing to give ourselves. On the other hand, when we choose to see the world through a lens of abundance, our relationships undergo a transformation. We begin to view others not as competitors, but as collaborators and allies. There is a shift from seeing scarcity in resources and opportunities to recognizing that there is enough to go around for everyone. When we adopt this mindset, we are more likely to celebrate the successes of others rather than feeling threatened by them. We become more supportive, encouraging, and willing to share our knowledge, time, and resources. This perspective fosters trust and open communication, which are the foundations of strong, lasting relationships. An abundance mindset also allows us to approach others with empathy. We begin to understand that people are not defined by their circumstances or their mistakes. Rather than judging others, we seek to understand their struggles and challenges. This shift leads to more compassionate, non-judgmental interactions, where we are able to support one another through difficult times without keeping score or demanding perfection. Ultimately, how we see the world determines how we show up in relationships. A scarcity mindset can create walls, while an abundance mindset can build bridges. By choosing to see others through the lens of abundance, we open ourselves up to deeper connections and more fulfilling relationships. The more we practice this mindset, the more we experience the richness of human connection. Shifting our perspective from scarcity to abundance is not simply about seeing things differently. It's about transforming the way we interact with the world and with ourselves. This shift is a conscious choice, one that has the power to create significant change in every aspect of our lives. It's not something that happens instantly, but it is something we can actively practice every day. When we make the effort to see the world through a lens of abundance, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities that were once invisible to us. At its core, shifting your views about rearing your mindset, it requires us to step out of the default mode of thinking that often centers on what's missing or what's wrong. Instead, it encourages us to look at what's present, what's working, and what we can do to create more of it. This change in perception allows us to move from a place of limitation to one of growth. We stop seeing obstacles as insurmountable, and we begin to view them as opportunities for growth and learning. Challenges, rather than defeating us, become invitations to innovate, adapt, and evolve. When we embrace this new way of seeing the world, we start to recognize abundance in the smallest things: a smile from a stranger, a conversation with a friend, a quiet moment of reflection. We begin to see the richness of life and everything around us. This shift doesn't negate the difficulties we may face. It simply allows us to acknowledge them without being consumed by them. The abundance mindset helps us put things into perspective. It enables us to move from a scarcity-driven state of anxiety, stress, to a place of peace and possibility. This shift also involves letting go of the fear of failure. When we see the world through a scarcity lens, failure often feels like a personal flaw or a sign that we are not enough. But when we see the world through abundance, failure becomes part of the process. It is no longer something to fear or avoid. Instead, it is viewed as a learning experience that moves us closer to our goals. This perspective allows us to take risks, try new things, and push past our comfort zones without the overwhelming pressure to be perfect. We are able to embrace the journey, knowing that every step, no matter how small, is progress. The more we practice shifting our view, the more it becomes a natural part of our mindset. With each small decision to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, we create a new habit. This habit then reinforces itself, creating a cycle of positivity, growth, and opportunity. As we shift our mindset, we begin to attract more of what we focus on. The more we focus on possibilities, the more possibilities appear. The more we choose to see the world as abundant, the more abundance we experience in our lives. When we make the conscious decision to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, we begin to unlock the true potential within ourselves and our lives. This shift in mindset is not a passive experience. It requires active participation, daily practice, and a deep commitment to changing the way we perceive our circumstances. The power of focusing on abundance lies not just in recognizing the opportunities around us, but in learning to see the world as full of possibilities waiting to be embraced. Focusing on abundance is transformative because it rewires our brains to seek out positive, growth-oriented experiences. Human beings naturally have a tendency to focus on problems, deficits, and risks. This survival instinct often leads us to concentrate on what we don't have or what could go wrong. But when we consciously decide to focus on what we do have, our strengths, our relationships, our talents, we begin to see the world through a completely different lens. This shift can be incredibly powerful because it allows us to let go of the fear that limits our actions and instead focus on the potential for success and growth in every situation. By focusing on abundance, we stop seeing life as a series of challenges to overcome and start seeing it as a series of opportunities to explore. Opportunities to learn new skills, to connect with others, to expand our horizons. With this perspective, setbacks become stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Instead of feeling defeated by failure or rejection, we see them as valuable experiences that move us closer to where we want to be. We become more resilient because we understand that every difficulty carries with it the seed of opportunity for growth, learning, and eventual success. One of the greatest gifts of focusing on abundance is that it allows us to live with gratitude. Gratitude is a natural byproduct of seeing the world as abundant. When we focus on what we have, rather than what we lack, we develop a deeper appreciation for the small things, the people in our lives, the opportunities we've had, the moments of peace and joy that surround us. Gratitude is not just about acknowledging the big accomplishments, it's about noticing the everyday blessings that we often overlook. This shift in focus can lead to greater happiness, contentment, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. Furthermore, focusing on abundance cultivates a mindset of generosity. When we believe that there is enough for everyone, we are more willing to share our time, our resources, our knowledge, and our love. This generosity fosters a sense of community and connection, strengthening our relationships and creating a supportive environment where everyone can thrive. The more we give, the more we receive, because abundance is not a finite resource. The more we give from a place of abundance, the more we align ourselves with the flow of opportunity, connection, and growth. Ultimately, focusing on abundance changes everything. It changes how we see the world, how we interact with others, and how we experience our own lives. It brings us peace, resilience, and gratitude, and it empowers us to create the life we truly desire. When we choose to focus on abundance, we create a life that is rich with possibilities and open to the endless potential that exists in every moment. This shift in mindset isn't just about changing our perspective, it's about transforming the way we live, think, and engage with the world around us. In conclusion, the way we perceive the world shapes our experiences and actions. By choosing to shift from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance, we open ourselves to growth, opportunity, and deeper connections. This change in perspective empowers us to embrace challenges, build stronger relationships, and approach life with gratitude and generosity. Our mindset is in our control, and by focusing on abundance, we create a richer, more fulfilling life. This transformation is always within reach. And with each shift, we open the door to endless possibilities. So let me ask you this, what lens are you looking through today? Is it a lens of scarcity or one of abundance? Because the world we experience is shaped by how we choose to see it. And once you shift your view, everything changes. Thank you.